Well, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the EDSI Free Intended Parent webinar that is hopefully going to be informative to you as we try to guide you through your journey as an intended parent and to answer the questions that you have for your surrogacy journey. As people are coming in, I will try to allow them to enter. But meanwhile, I do want to get started with some of the housekeeping matters that we're going to do. This webinar is going to be about 30 minutes. And when I start talking about surrogacy, I can go on for hours and hours. So unfortunately, I've been only given about a half-hour time. So if you have questions, please, we will have an opportunity at the end to address your questions. I will also provide you with my personal email address and phone number where you can contact me and ask any questions that you have. Another point that I wanted to raise with you is that while I'm reading, I've been told that I might start looking sad. It is not the case. I'm very passionate about everything that we're going to be discussing. And sometimes when I get involved, I might have what they call a resting Parham face. So please forgive that, and I'm just letting you know. Now, diving right into the matters that we're going to be discussing. Of course, you may have realized in this time that family is very important. In fact, we have more people, more intended parents reaching out to us at this point because they want to form their families. We want to cover the 8 biggest questions that usually intended parents ask us about surrogacy. By no means does it mean that these are the only questions. And of course, they're the basic questions. If you do have more in-depth questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them after this presentation. To tell you a little bit about me and who I am and about EDSI, my name is Parham Zar. I am the Managing Director of Egg Donor and Surrogacy Institute. I have worked with thousands of intended parents for the last almost 20 years. And in fact, my inspired staff and I have a combined total of about 50 years of experience within the world of surrogacy. So we want you to avail yourselves of our knowledge and to make sure that you get your questions answered. EDSI is located in Beverly Hills, California. We've been established since 2001, and we really guide intended parents from all over the globe, internationally and also, of course, domestically. So our parents are from basically any state in the United States and worldwide. I encourage you to please Google EDSI and find out more about us and what our intended parents, our surrogates, and our egg donors say about us. I think that would be the best testimonial as to how we do things and how we really take every matter of guiding our intended parents very personally. You have a question, please either type it in the chat or reach out to me by email, and I will be able to either address them at the end of this session, or I will respond to you by email, and it'll be my pleasure. If you have any issues with hearing me or anything else, please also give me a chat and I'll be happy to address that. What are your options when you want to have a baby? It is very, it's very interesting that people don't always think about or talk about what are the options when you want to have a child. Unfortunately, because women are deciding to have a child later on in life, or the fact that the infertility is on a rise, we are facing more the need for third-party reproduction third-party assisted reproduction. That means someone that needs the help of either a surrogate or an egg donor in order to have a baby. So the rundown of the 5 options that really are out there right now is obviously the old-fashioned way. The second option is to go through in vitro fertilization or some sort of infertility treatment. The third options are the combination of either a surrogate and an egg donor helping the intended parents to have a child, or either or. So it could be only a surrogate or an egg donor. And of course, the last is adoption. What we get a lot of questions about is really the difference between surrogacy and adoption. The best way that I can describe the difference between the two is really the control that the intended parents have in the genetic makeup of the child. When you go through surrogacy, you as the parent have control over the DNA of the child. So you are in control of determining whether it's your egg, your sperm, or an egg donor or a sperm donor, the genetic makeup of the baby. Also the timing. You get to determine when you are ready to create your family. And of course, your rights. The states that we work with as far as surrogacy is concerned are all surrogate-friendly states, which means that from the get-go, from the moment the baby is born, your names are placed on the birth certificate as the parent or parents of the child. That there is the name of the surrogate does not appear anywhere on the birth certificate. So it's from the beginning, the parent or parents are regarded as the parents of the child. Why is, this is another question that we get quite often, is why is surrogacy not legal everywhere? It really beats me. I don't know why there are still states or even countries that have not seen the benefit that surrogacy and the miracle that surrogacy brings to the lives of a lot of intended parents. But things are changing. So for example, when we look at the state of New York, New York for up to this year had laws against surrogacy, and surrogacy was illegal. I'm very proud to let you know that we at EDSI were very instrumental in the discussions with the New York legislature to legalize surrogacy in New York. And in fact, as of 2021, surrogacy will be legal in New York. And I believe this will continue, and more states will fall in line with this way of thinking. Legal aspects of everything we do is extremely important. I wish I could go into a lot of in-depth discussions, but that's for another seminar that we will do on the legal aspects of surrogacy. But of course, everything that we do is court sanctioned, and it's with law on the side of the intended parents. How do we know that a surrogate will relinquish our baby? It is a very important question, and a question that we get a lot. My answer is usually in a very jestful way is, can you imagine that I have a surrogate that is sitting in front of me with the concern that, how do I know that parents are going to take the child? So as you can see, I mean, both scenarios are very unlikely and not something that certainly I have seen in the 20 years that I've been doing this, but it is a very serious concern. That's why we have pre-birth judgments in place, so that there is absolutely no question or misunderstanding as to whose rights and obligations are protected under the contracts that the surrogate and her husband, if she's married, by the way, have with respect to the intended parent or the intended parents. And of course, our goal at EDSI is to guide you through this entire process and to make sure that we handle all of the legal aspects, medical aspects, psychological aspects of surrogacy in a very professional way, and to make sure that we are a great resource for you. Um, Another question that we get often is the baby going to look like uh, my surrogate? The answer, the quick answer is no, absolutely not. And it's simply because we're not using the genetic material of the surrogate. The surrogate is a gestational surrogate, which means she's basically acting as the oven. She is nurturing the baby, very important, and making sure that the baby is growing and healthy within her body. But the DNA genetic material of the baby is not that of the surrogate. In fact, in the 20 years that I've been doing this, I've seen the most amazing miracles. I've had an African American surrogate that has carried a Chinese baby, or a Caucasian, surrogate that might have carried for a Nigerian family. So the genetic makeup of the baby is associated with the egg and sperm source, which is not from the surrogate. How do we at EDSI choose your surrogates? Very, very important question. And this is what really sets us apart from a lot of the other agencies. So I can share with you a folder probably about this big of all the applications that we receive from women who want to become surrogates. Of all the applications that we receive, 1 in every 100 ultimately becomes a surrogate for EDSI. Now, a lot of those 99 other ones that have been rejected by EDSI, they might go and become a surrogate at another agency, or they might become a surrogate independently. But what I want to ensure our parents is that what they're availing themselves of with EDSI is that top 1%. And in order to achieve that for them, we go through a very stringent set of background checks, physical, psychological screening, home visit, and a lot of other factors that go into selecting the surrogate for us. At the least, of course, the things that we look at is the surrogate must have her own child and be raising her own child. She must have extremely healthy eating habits. Whether she's single or married, it really doesn't matter. She must have very good family support, whether through parents, siblings, friends, must have a very good support system. We at EDSI, what sets us apart from some of the other agencies is when we present a surrogate to our intended parents, that surrogate has been completely vetted. All of the items that I mentioned, their psychological screening, their medical checkup, their criminal background check, their home visit, these are all completed beforehand. They are not left for after a match, because one of the hardest things is when intended parents meet a surrogate, they fall in love, the surrogate falls in love with them, and then if we do psychological screening at that time and the surrogate doesn't pass, that would really be disheartening for everybody. That's why we at EDSI make sure that all of the screenings are done beforehand. Now, I talked about the medical screening. What we do for our surrogates is their general health screening. We do the pap smear, we check their thyroids, all their blood work. However, the fertility screening must be done by your fertility clinic. So that's when the doctor will make sure that the uterus is suitable for insemination, and those are done by your fertility clinic. But at the get-go, we want to make sure at least that the surrogate is healthy, that she is emotionally in a good place, psychologically fit to be a surrogate, lives in a safe, clean environment, has very good family support, and also must have had her own child and raised her own child. If you have any more questions about the criteria that we use, I will be more than happy to discuss them with you in a session that we will possibly have together in the future. So once you choose your surrogate, what's next? when you enter a journey of surrogacy, there are many entities, individuals that are involved in this process. There is you, there's a surrogate, possibly a donor, the fertility doctors, the lawyers, the psychologists, insurance, the doctor that will actually deliver the baby, because the fertility doctor is not the one that's going to deliver the baby. The hospital where the surrogate will give birth, the birth clerk, and the issuance of birth certificates. So this is our job at EDSI, to guide you through the entire process and to make sure that we're there to make sure that everybody is actually talking together seamlessly, that the communications between us and everybody else, including the surrogate, the most important one. We want to make sure that the surrogate is informed, that she's getting the right information, the right guidance, and that she never has any questions. Another thing that absolutely sets EDSI apart from other agencies is we don't clock out at 4:30 p.m. and no one will hear from us until the next day, or over the weekend there is no calls. We are available to our surrogates 24/7 because emergencies happen, things come up, questions come up, dosage issues. What do I do next? Am I doing the vitamins now, or I do them at 5 a.m.? Am I taking the shot at this time? Is the dose 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter? These are so many things. And that's why we want to make sure that our team is available to the surrogates to answer their questions and to make sure that we advocate for them and on their behalf to the doctors as well. What should you expect during your child's delivery? Now, this is a very important question. Unfortunately, at these times, I have to really divide it into BC, which is before Corona, and what we're dealing with now with COVID-19. Normally, during a delivery, of course, you, the intended parent, are the one who is going to be making all the decisions about the baby. So we want to make sure that you are there to make the decisions. You would be in the room with the surrogate and either her husband or a family member that will be with her. There will be no dry eye in the house, of course, because everybody's witnessing an amazing miracle, but you will be there to make the decisions that need to be made about the child. During COVID times, of course, there is a lot of limitations as to who can enter the hospital. So we have challenges and things that we coordinate with the hospital and make sure that our intended parents, that you will know what those guidelines are and guidances are. And of course, we at EDSI are with you every step of the way so that you know what to expect at the delivery. Ultimately, all the decisions that have to be made about the child are made by you, and we advocate for you in those circumstances. Where will surrogacy be in 5 years? And this is, by the way, just my opinion, but I think it's a very educated opinion based on the 20 years of experience that I've had within the world of surrogacy. On one hand, I see the need for surrogacy definitely growing. Again, because of the decisions that most women have to pursue their careers or to have a child at a later date, which is a factor. And also the fact that infertility rates have been rising. So the need for surrogacy grows. And as the need is growing, more and more states, more and more countries are going to realize the need and the miracle that surrogacy is providing to intended parents as a way for them to form their families. Just as New York just changed the laws, I believe that other states will come in line and more states will allow surrogacy to proceed. By the way, no matter where the intended parents live, they can avail themselves of surrogacy in surrogate-friendly states. And that's what we guide you through the entire process. And we let you know which states surrogacy is legal and where where we have any limitations. So for example, there might be issues with married couples versus a single person, whether it's a same-sex couple or a gay single person who wants to have a child. We will guide you through all of the different legal aspects of different states as they relate to surrogacy. We would love to send you, when it is available in a couple of weeks, a copy of our free book that goes into more detail about surrogacy. We have your email, and with your permission, we will be sending that to you. If you have any questions, I would like to begin the conversation now. I see that we had some questions here. By the way, please jot down my email address, pzar@eggdonorandsurrogacy.com. I would be happy to answer any questions you have once this is finished, or if you want to raise them now, I'll be happy to answer them as well. And our office number is 866-344-3662. One of the questions I have is, will EDSI help the IPs? Do you check their driving records too? So what if it does happen? I'm not sure what it's referring to as far as what if it does happen, but EDSI is absolutely there the entire time with the intended parents to deal with any circumstances that come up. Life is messy. Pregnancy is messy. We always hope that everything will go well, but if things don't go well, we are there with you to make sure that we deal with them. The last thing we want to do is to have a surrogate or intended parents that don't feel the support, and to know that they have the right soldiers on their side to make sure their cycles go well, that their pregnancy is a successful pregnancy. Cycle is a term of art, and I apologize I use it, but it means when you do your in vitro fertilization and the insemination, that everything goes well, and ultimately you have a successful pregnancy. I see. What if it does happen and the surrogate does not relinquish the baby? Of course, we have an army of lawyers on your side. So you have your own attorney, and the surrogate, of course, has their own attorney. And you have a 38-page contract that is signed with the surrogate. We do have a pre-birth judgment that is sanctioned by a judge. So there is, even though I've never seen this happen, if it does happen, of course, EDSI and the attorneys will be there on your side to make sure these matters are handled. How do you get medical insurance for a surrogate? Insurances are very important and very tricky. So there are many types of insurances that we put in place for the intended parents. One is, of course, the health insurance for the surrogate. The other one is a life insurance. So God forbid, if something happens to the surrogate during her pregnancy as a surrogate, of course, the intended parents have spent a lot of money, and you might run the risk of losing a child at that time. So we have life insurances in place that will compensate the surrogate's family at a certain amount, and also will compensate you at a certain amount to make sure that at least you're recouping some of the expenses that you might have incurred. We also, every year as open season begins for insurance, we are scrambling for all of our surrogates to make sure that we find them solutions for insurances that do not have surrogacy exclusion. And so far, we've been pretty lucky. But we don't just leave it to chance. We always try to find the right solutions for our intended parents, and to put you in touch with the right insurance agents, and to put the surrogacy insurance in place as well. There is also insurance for the baby. So your insurance will actually cover the baby. So once the baby leaves the surrogate's body, her insurance will not cover the baby anymore. Everything will switch to your insurance. you will be notifying your insurance company. You have 30 days after the birth of the child to notify them of the birth of the child. Of course, because your names are on the birth certificate, there is no need to do any adoption work or anything. So it makes it a lot easier for you to add them to your own insurance. How come some agencies' fees differ so much? Good question. It's a matter of the amount of service that you're getting, the professionality of the agencies that you're looking at. If somebody's running a business out of their garage rather than doing, something that's more as a business, that's a decision that you as an intended parent have to make to see who do you want to give you the support that you need. I think the best thing that you can do is to put all of the right resources in your corner. The best doctor, the best agency, the best surrogate, the best donor, and to make sure that you have a successful cycle. So you have to consider all factors, and the fees are in line with that. Some agencies that might be charging very little, they might just be introducing a surrogate to intended parents, and then it's adios, you're on your own. You have to figure everything out on your own. We at EDSI care very much to make sure that we are with you every single every bit of the way, and we don't take for granted the fact that you and the surrogate rely on us to guide you through the entire process. So we're here for you, definitely. What if I miss the delivery? It could happen. Sometimes if the surrogate goes into labor in the middle of the night or something and informs us, and we scramble and we try to get information to our intended parents and to get you to the hospital as soon as possible, the baby will be born. The hospital will already have your information in their system, because we make sure that the pre-birth judgment is placed with the hospital beforehand. And so they already know, and they're expecting you as the parents. And of course, we at EDSI are in contact with the social workers and the birth record office at the hospital constantly. And we want to make sure that they know that nothing goes under the name of the surrogate. Until you get there and get everything done, you can be in contact with we will put you in touch with the social worker and with the birth clerk, so that you can also communicate with them as well. Let's see. Let me see what other questions I can see here. These are all, I think I've covered all the questions that I see here. So unless there are any other questions, I thank you for joining us on this video call. Please email me. I will be more than happy to give you my time to answer your questions. And of course, for participating in this video call, you can avail yourself of a complimentary discussion with me, and I'll answer any questions you have. And I don't see any other questions. Let's see here, because I can't find it. Okay, my opinion on local versus out-of-state surrogates. I think the best thing you can do is to find the most ideal surrogate for yourself, because at the end of the day, with everything that all the emotional, medical, and financial commitments that you are making, to get the best surrogate should be the ultimate goal. And whether they live in California or in Arizona or Tennessee, we have to make sure that it's the right surrogate for you. And that's what we're here at EDSI to guide you through, to make sure that you do have the best surrogate for you. Not every surrogate is right for everybody. And we at EDSI make sure that you do have your ideal surrogate. Do we test the surrogates for COVID-19 before implantation? Yes, we do. In fact, the doctors' offices are doing that now, and it's very important because we want to make sure that they do, it's a different conversation that we're having with the surrogates now. And we have implemented a lot of safety precautions for our surrogates. We're making ourselves available to them more. We do video calls with them where we ask them to check their temperature. We check their temperature with them and to make sure that they are safe and they're healthy. If they have younger children, of course, they're home with them, and we want to make sure that they all stay safe and healthy. So yes, COVID-19 testing is a part of what the doctors are doing, what the hospital is doing, and what we at EDSI really, the discussions that we're having with the surrogates. Any research if the surrogate has COVID that would be transferred to the baby? None that I have found out. Unfortunately, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not really the right person to discuss this. But from my own research that I've looked into, of course, because COVID-19 is so new and there is not much evidence of much out there, but from what I have seen, there is no evidence of transfer from a pregnant woman to the child. So that but it's a good question to ask your doctor. Let's see here. What if we can't find a surrogate, a medical policy that we pay? Then we do 100%. If we can't find insurance for the surrogate, which doesn't happen that often, but if it does, and it is becoming more difficult, by the way, to get insurance, we absolutely 100% with us and with the attorneys, we want to make sure that we get the best cash pay solutions for our surrogates and for you as our intended parents. We do communicate with the hospitals beforehand. We have to make sure the most important thing is the hospital where the surrogate will give birth is completely vetted by us and by you. What I mean by that is we want to make sure that it's a major hospital with a tertiary NIC unit, a neonatal intensive care unit, so that God forbid if there is any emergency with the baby, that the baby does not have to be transferred to another hospital, that the surrogate is giving birth at a place where the baby can be taken care of. So there is a lot of discussions with the hospital as far as costs, charges, and if we don't have insurance in place, how much cash it will eventually cost for the surrogate to give birth at the facility. There are also rather expensive surrogacy pregnancy insurance, not insurance, but other insurance type options out there that are offered through, for example, Lloyd's of London. I was never a fan of those plans because they're very expensive and they usually are not better than what we can work out with the hospitals on a cash basis. But we are here to make sure that we solve these issues for you, that we are there to guide you through all of these different, and to find a solution for you. Does EDSI have a specific surrogacy lawyer or that it ties to one? Not that we tie to one, but of course, we are at the core creatures of habit, and we're also, I don't want any headaches. So when we choose to work with certain professionals, certain lawyers, or certain insurance or psychologists, is because in our core, we believe that they are as professional as we are, and that they will make your lives and our lives easier. So yes, obviously there are attorneys that we work with more than anybody else. The whole world of infertility, you can probably count the number of really good, surrogacy lawyers on two hands. So there's not that many that I would say are really worth working with. And we have our set of favorites that we work with. I'll be more than happy to share with you who they are, and you can feel free to to interview them and talk to them. But of course, the attorneys that we work with are really the best, and responsive. They get things done quickly, and they are available, which is very important to me, because if emergencies happen, we want to make sure that we're able to reach the lawyers as soon as possible. Another question I have here is, can we choose our own lawyers instead of what EDSI recommends? Absolutely, with a caveat. And the caveat is, of course, they must be fertility expert attorneys. So they must be in the field of infertility. And if you want to get my suggestion or recommendation, or if you want to share with me who the attorney is, I'll be more than happy to give you my assessment on it. None of the lawyers that we work with are associated with EDSI or have any sort of, we don't have any financial relationship or with the attorneys. So it is absolutely your prerogative to talk to the lawyers and to feel comfortable with them. We live in California. Do we need to plan for newborn insurance? My husband and I have our own policy through work. You don't. As long as you live in California, and as long as you have your own insurance, your baby will automatically be added to the insurance. Your baby will be on the insurance for about 30 days. And then you have that time to add them to your insurance. So your work insurance should automatically carry through for the baby. How much more in fees to carry twins? If I want to give you a ballpark figure, twins, what you're paying more for is not double of everything. So for example, a surrogate is compensated, let's say $5,000 more for carrying twins. Also, there are other things that could happen during a twin pregnancy. For example, she might have to have a C-section, so she will be compensated for a C-section. She might have to go on bed rest, because with twin pregnancy, usually the doctors put the surrogate on bed rest about 7 months of pregnancy. There is a possibility of premature birth. So the surrogates that carry twins usually give birth about a month early. So there are many different factors that go into additional costs, but they're not double. So roughly maybe about $10,000 to $15,000 of additional expenses if a surrogate carries twins. For lost wages, maybe childcare, more housekeeping because she's on bed rest, or C-section, also for carrying twins, also maternity clothing allowance. She might be getting a little bit more for that. So those are the expenses that you're looking at. EDSI cost sheet indicated $20,000 for twins. What does that include, or is that an agency fee? No, it is absolutely not an agency fee. We do not charge more for you having twins. The $20,000 that we indicate is an estimate of a fair estimate. We always want to make sure that you're ready for the top numbers. So usually I think $10,000 to $15,000 is the realistic number. We want you to be ready to know that you might be spending about $20,000, but that is not EDSI fees. These are estimated additional expenses that might be incurred because of the surrogate's twin pregnancy. Any other? Well, I hope that I've answered all of your questions. Let me see. As far as cost, is that doable for a single female teacher? I'm not sure what that means. I will be more than happy to discuss it with you offline. So if you want to call me or email me, I will be happy to discuss so that I get better understanding of what your question is. And any other, I think this was I hope you found this informative. We are here to help you. Please reach out to me, and thank you for joining this webinar.